did eventually. She said, I mean, Jenny was telling me, so I don't know
I heard it as well.
but it's such, but you know, and it's such a shame because I know, I think people say to get out.
It's interesting, I think, because we can explain the difference between an Italian head. I think this is an Italian harlequin, probably, or Brighella, maybe.
Possibly Brighella.
Yeah, or Brighella. It's easier. Yes, yes. And you see, this is a mask, which is carved on the face. So you have the mask start here and arrives just until the mustache. So this is a mask, a black mask on the face.
Can we have it in the light?
Yes. You
Do you want it in the light, or do you want the...
Put it in front of the camera for a moment.
Oh,
You
there.
can see it.
Hang on, if I get out of the light.
Perfect.
That's it, perfect.
You see, here start the mask and here. So this is a typical Italian mask, and I think the style too is Italian, because if you look at the two ears, this is a sort of unfinished head. You see here, it's not entirely carved, the ear. If you turn the head on the other side, you see that the ear is finished. So this is a typical Italian manner of create the ears with a single carving here, and then around the perimeter of the ear. So I think that this could be carved by an Italian or by a member of the Arena Goldoni looking at an Italian marionette. We have many heads like this in the museums, so this is very, very different.
Yeah.
This is a sort of medieval character, like Frances said, and which is very, very beautiful.
So when we displayed the puppets as part of Dead Puppet in Manchester, we had the torso and we displayed the head on the shelf above it, so that if you stood in front of the puppet you could kind of join the head with the body. And we did that because the torso has little hands that are grasping something, and we saw that as a kind of weightlifter, and we thought that this head sort of went with that body, but it seems like we were wrong. We got it wrong, Stan. Okay.
But one rather curious thing is, of course, that the Commedia puppets, of course, imitated the live actors of the Commedia dell'arte, but these are puppets, they're just wooden heads, but even so, the mask is treated as a mask on a wooden puppet, so to speak, which is a curious convention.
Yes. To keep with the Italian theme, what about the puppet that's next to the
Sword.
Yes, the one with the sword.
Yes.
Is that very much repeating what we've said with these puppets?
I think probably,
So
yes.
it's just bigger. Yeah, yeah.
Dead is not maybe. Yeah.
I've seen heads like that, but not particularly on Sicilian puppets.
Exactly.
But again, yes, now another thing I might be able to show, yes, good, I can show you. You notice the head with this type of puppet, the head slides up and you should be able to take it off. And this is because frequently, frequently, you know, when they would do these long cycles of plays, and every time somebody got done in, they simply took the head off that puppet and banged a different head on for the next evening's show. And of course, if you go to Sicily, particularly in Palermo, you will see these wonderful battles where this is a slightly different thing, but where the heads always, I think, of the Moorish, so of the Turkish soldiers, are smitten off, and you have these heads bouncing around. It never happens to the Christian soldiers, I notice. They have also more exciting things in Sicily. I mean, giants tend to get smitten across the top of the head like this, and then the front of the head falls off. And then the climax of a really good battle between two knights is one of them gets cleft from stem to stern, and the two halves dance around the stage on one leg for a while, and then end up in a sort of nice heap.
And Kokoschka did it to Alma Mahler, you can read in The Guardian today. Her doll.
Aha.
You know Kokoschka made
Yes,
a doll
yes.
with Alma Mahler, and they used to go to the opera. He used to take it to the opera, and then he got fed up, he just beheaded it and took the beheaded doll.
And what about the puppet, which I'm assuming is from Rajasthan?
It certainly looks rather Rajasthani. The head I don't totally recognise, but it may be simply because here you typically Rajasthani puppets with the carved wooden head, but what makes one think it is Rajasthan is in fact you have the head and then down below, well, there's two hands, but in fact there is no body at all. You know, it just depends on the movement. Usually the Rajasthani puppets have very few strings. Quite a common thing is just to have one to the head and one to the back, and you just sort of balance that a little bit. They do have dancers as well who have rather more strings, which are all held in the hand. There's no control or anything of that sort. In fact, some of them then, the dancers who do the really elegant dance, they sort of pick up their skirt and sort of dance across the stage with it. But in that case, there's a slight hook and the skirt is picked up and caught.
Excuse me, John. So sorry.
Oh, welcome,
to see you.
Penny.
Thank you, Nina.
Welcome.
The traffic was completely stationary. But I made it.
Great to see
Well, I'm
you.
very
Good.
pleased to see you.
Thank you.
Your name's been mentioned a few times.
In good ways.
So, are we surmising that this is
I think it's
Rajasthani?
certainly a Rajasthani type of puppet, but I say this head is a bit unfamiliar. Somebody may have seen this. It's actually, I think it's papier-mâché, but it's a bit unusual.
Another commercial one? I think it's a Goldoni student. Isn't
It might be even that.
It looks a bit too authentic, doesn't
Well,
it, to
yes.
be a student or
Yes, but you see, underneath there is sweet d'amour. You see?
No legs, which is very important.
Right.
She hasn't legs because a dancer is better without legs.
But
Because
none
it's
of
free
the
to
ordinary,
walk.
none of the ordinary ones have legs either.
Yeah, never.
Yes, no.
Yeah.
But the dance have these wonderful skirts, and one which we had to redress, in fact, because although it was bought from a puppeteer, it was dressed initially in a rather heavy, very, very glitzy skirt, which you could do nothing with. So we got a sort of much lighter cotton, and the puppet has you just have a little pin in the finger, and the puppet sort of bends over. The pin catches the skirt, brings it right up, and then there's this very elegant dance across the stage holding the
it?
skirt.
Mask lines underneath there.
Is this one of
Beard, I
Craig?
think.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
Is
this is
it
a
a
beard.
mask or beard?
Of the
Beard,
collection.
beard. Yeah.
And before we move from that area completely, there are of course all the feet, which I'm presuming are the same origin
it
as
looks
the...
like they've
I
all
think they were
followed.
exercises for the students, perhaps puppets they were making, and exercises in carving.
In Geoffrey Nelson's designs, it looked like all the hands are carved to be fists.
Yes.
So I think it seems like they
Of course, it is
followed
quite
that.
common, this idea of having a hand that will
Hold
a prehensile,
things, hold a sword
so you
or
can
something
stick a
similar.
prop into
So
it.
those two are, and the designers as well.
Did he work in Italy, Geoffrey Nelson?
I think they use his designs in the school. I'm not sure he worked. It's all in English. This is.
Yes.
So I don't know an awful lot about him. I don't know whether you
I
do.
don't know
John.
very much about
no,
him.
I don't know about Geoffrey Nelson.
Michael, is that this one?
That's that one.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, you're looking out to the audience there, John. Are you eliciting?
I was just
trying to
wondering whether
elicit-
Matthew could have provided vital information at that
Those
point.
modern designs you're talking about were probably from Miles Lee, who was a Scottish puppeteer who spent a year or two in Delhi in the 50s. So the multi-string Rajasthani puppets are modern British innovation, actually.
Yes.
And the crossbar he introduced as well at the same
Yes.
time. But these figures and the Middleton's other figures are of an older design. That could be Rajasthani, but it could also be from another part of northern
Well,
India,
exactly.
where they're also, or even Pakistan, where there's
But of course,
traditional-
I mean, I've seen Pakistani puppeteers.
Yeah.
I think. That leaves us with our mystery puppet, doesn't it?
It does leave us with our mystery puppet. Although I've got here somewhere, if I can find it. It's a quote from actually Henrik's book, which I've credited before your arrival, Penny. And he's talking about the Uber marionette and writing to Martin Shaw, the musician that he worked with, and he's talking about coming to London to get some of these puppets. And I'm wondering if anybody knows who might have been making them. Nope. I mean, we know that he had quite a correspondence with Walter Wilkinson from Craig Sun's book.
Yes, he did, and he was proud. So I talk about the guild a little bit now. We've got his connection, the British Puppets and Model Theatre Guild, of which I'm the archivist. It's an oldest puppetry organisation, 90 years old next year. And we had the exhibition in 1930. At that point, it was the Model Theatre Guild rather than the Puppet and Model Theatre Guild. But there was so many puppets involved in the organisation that eventually they did 2 years later adapt the name to be British Puppet and Model Theatre. But they held exhibitions from 1925 onwards, and in 1930.
I am going to stop you because I'm going to save this treat until after the drinks, if you don't mind.
Of course, if you want to do that.
But I've just found in October 1905 he wrote again to Martin Shaw. You see, Martin, if I come to town, London, in a month from now, it will be to collect my army of workers. Did I tell you I had invented a critter which makes it possible for me to dispense with actors? Well, I come to collect a few in England and also to arrange about an English and American tour in 1909. So that's what I was trying to trace.
And the theatre that they used on one occasion reopened in London this week.
Aha, thank you.
Which is the Coronet in Notting Hill. It's opened as the print room, but the whole Coronet is going to be renovated. But Aces and Galatea and one other that was Martin Shaw was involved with it were done there.
Right.
That beautiful cinema on down from the gate.
Lovely.
I think it features in Time Out this week.
Does it?
Right, well, let's move on to the creme de la creme, the one that I want to fit in my bag every time I see
The most
it.
difficult one, probably.
Maybe we can get Juliet to illustrate this one, do you mind?
Oh,
because it's so beautiful and delicate that I don't...
No, let me just remember quite how this works. Let's see.
It's a baby.
The master, yes, the baby. Whoops. Lovely.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's what he does.
Thank you. So,
Henrik and George Speight really liked that one out of all these things.
they had good
They
taste.
honed in on that. Yeah.
We were very puzzled by it, to be honest with you. There are a lot of interesting features. But first of all, I wonder really whether it hasn't been put on a stand. Okay, it's possible to hold the stand, but I think the stand has been added. But it is interesting. I think probably Italian, but this is our guess. Partly because you have the Italian colours. Because when we had the Risorgimento, the unification of Italy and that sort of thing, people are always waving the green, white and red thing. Even, for instance, the Gianduia from Turin, for instance, is actually dressed in those colours very often. And so you do have this sort of nationalism, or whatever you want to call it, creeping into the puppet theatre. The actual design of the puppet is very strange, but I think another feature which is interesting is precisely as the string on, Lost it. No, not that one. It's this string here I was looking for.
Oh, I see.
Seems to have got lost. Anyway, but the string for that effect, we do find that with quite a lot of Italian figures. I don't think it's unique to Italy, probably, but the idea of the figure who is transformed in some way. I mean, again, in Sicily, I speak particularly of Sicily because I know the Sicilian puppets better than any others. You will have the character of the enchantress Alcina, and frequently you have, in fact, three possibilities. The head sort of turns around, and you have the beautiful woman, the old woman, and death.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, you know, this idea of the head which can transforms in front of you. And the other thing, of course, then, is the mechanism of the arms, which is more like, I think in French I call it a pantin, I think we call it a jumping jack, if you like. You simply pull the string and the arms go whoosh.
I think that's what this is. I think I'll disagree with you, Johnny. I think the base is original.
Is original.
Yes, I do
Because
too.
the paper covers the base, as does
Possibly,
the feet.
yes.
I think
Which
it's
is more a
it's
toy
more
than
of
a
toy.
puppet.
I think
Yes.
it's a toy than a puppet, and it's almost like a small automaton type toy for entertainment purposes. Lovely, beautiful, but I think yes, I think it is a toy more than a puppet.
Yeah, I mean, it seems
but-
strange if it were a puppet. I would have expected.
Yeah, I mean
Something
there
to
were
have gone
some
down to
Chinese theatres that did have all the figures were static and they were fixed to a base and they were controlled by strings underneath, and there were more travelling theatres that went around streets. But I think yes, I think the base is original. I think it probably is more of an entertainment piece, really.
I mean, in fact, I mean, in Spain also, there's like Tenerica.
Yes.
You also have an odd mixture of puppets, but there are sort of channels in the floor.
You're being upstaged here.
Yeah, so channels in the floor, and the figures are mounted on little sort of wheelie trolleys.
Yes.
And this will go around, but then the controls to make them do different things.
Yes, absolutely, very similar.
And the head is very similar to this type of head.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So this head
Yeah.
more or less the same.
Looks like that could have been added later, I think.
Yes.
So-
Although, is it round the hem of the dress as well?
No, it's slightly different
It's
colours.
different colour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely. So sort of about the same period as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
1900s.
1900-ish.
Yes. I would
And do
say
you
so.
think Craig would have bought this in the marketplace or something?
A toy shop or marketplace, yes, I would imagine.
Mm.
Again, for its simplicity, because
Yeah.
it's a simple movement, a regular movement, which is very hypnotizing movement. So he was attracted with regular and ceremonial movement. So I think this type of movement, very happy and easy, would be interesting for him. And I don't know exactly why, but this is a toy, so it's for fun. This movement, why a mask on the face, because he looks like Pulcinella, I think.
And this is Pulcinella,
yes,
too.
Little Pulcinella.
And he's a mix between a guard, a carabiniere, and Pulcinella. So it's
Some artistic license.
yes, it's very funny.
Of course, what's interesting is the actual mechanism here is used just the jumping jack mechanism, but the idea is you get, and then with a slight tilt, the baby will fall one way or the other. But of course, this is a much simpler example of what we're all familiar with any juggling marionettes, really, except there's the question of the tension of the strings. You know, one string is tense and the ball falls down in that direction, relax it, and then the other one you tense, and so on. So you can.
Marvellous. Right. Thank you very much.